Good afternoon. My name is Brad Walter, and today I am here with my imaginary student. I'm going to be teaching them about some aeronautical decision making. Aeronautical decision making is very important to aviation as it has greatly reduced a lot of aviation mishaps due to its systematic approach to identifying risks and figuring out ways to reduce and mitigate that risk to make flying a much safer environment for everyone. Hope you enjoy. Our objectives for this lesson are going to be to define ADM and understand the concepts that are put together to make ADM an effective tool, and then identify ways to consistently incorporate ADM into not just our everyday flying, but everyday lives, and just help make us better decision makers and safer pilots overall. What exactly is aeronautical decision making? According to the FAA, it is defined as a systematic approach to the mental process used by aircraft pilots to consistently determine the best course of action in response to a given set of circumstances. Basically, it's a systematic approach to identifying risks involved with our flying and then attempt to implement controls to either reduce that risk or eliminate it altogether, and then determine how that control that we put in place, how effective the control is that we put in place for that risk. These are the steps in order of the risk management process. The initial step is to identify hazards. So, for example, if we're going flying on VFR flight and we take a look at the weather and it's forecasting some low ceilings that could be in the TAF for part of our flight, that could be a hazard that we may need to mitigate if we don't have, if we're planning a VFR flight. So we can assess that risk, how likely is the risk to occur, or how likely is the hazard to occur, and what threat does it impose on us? So how severe would that risk be if it were to happen? Then we can analyze some controls, so some different controls that could be put in place. If you're planning on doing flight solo and you're not IFR rated, you could take along a safety pilot or your instructor that is IFR rated, and then if you encounter those low ceilings that you saw in the TAF, then you have a control in place to help you mitigate that risk and lower the hazard. So that's one control that can be put in place for that specific scenario. It could be a multitude of different things. If you've got a choice between a couple different planes to take, one's IFR rated and one's not, then obviously you'd want to try and make that decision to move to the IFR rated plane, or cancel the flight altogether until the weather is for your VFR capabilities. So then you're going to make that control decision. If you have a couple different options for your controls, pick the one that is going to be the safest and still allow you to be able to get some training done. So it may be that you have to cancel the flight, but if you can implement a control to still make a safe flight and still do it, then go for it. Then you're going to actually use the control and implement it. So if it's having your instructor come along with you, so you have an IFR rated pilot with you, implement that control and then continue on with your day. And then to wrap things up, you're going to monitor the results. So the results could be, hey, we had this flight, we saw a potential risk, we implemented a control, and it turned out that control was what we needed, and it made the flight safe for us to complete in a timely manner. So that's an example of using the risk management process to identify some risk and implement a control to mitigate that risk. One of the hard parts about ADM is just getting that to be part of your thought process on a regular basis. So the best way to do that is just keep on using some of the tools that the FAA has put in place to kind of force you to use those, use the aeronautical decision-making process. One good example is the PAVE checklist. So that has you go through yourself, the aircraft, the environment, any external pressures to try and identify some of those hazards that could arise during your flight. And also try to apply it to other areas of your life. If you're getting ready to drive to work and it's pouring down rain, what are some controls that you could put in place? Maybe you don't have, maybe your wiper blades need to be replaced. So that could be a type of control that you put in place to make the trip safer for you. So another good way to do it is look over aviation accidents, stay up to date and current on what's going on in aviation news, and when you look over those accident reports, look at it critically and figure out how, if that pilot had applied aeronautical decision making a little better, if that accident could have been avoided, and if so, just keep that in the forefront of your mind that using this could one day prevent you from getting into an accident. In conclusion, we talked about the definition of aeronautical decision making for the FAA. We discussed the concepts that put together aeronautical decision making to make it a systematic approach to mitigating risk, and we identified ways to help make ADM part of our everyday thought process and habit pattern to make us better, safer pilots. And these are the references that I used to put together this presentation. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks.